Exiting the hospital, my mind was a complete blur. A mere DNA test had flipped my world on its head, making everything seem inside out. Going back home was out of the question. I was in dire need of some space to process everything. So I found myself wandering into a bar close to the hospital, where I promptly ordered a large Bloody Mary. It wasn't typical of me, but I truly needed that drink. The bar was deserted, allowing me to grab my drink, settle at a secluded table, and dive into my thoughts. My previously envisioned life had crumbled. Delaying urgent decisions isn't usually my style, yet I felt compelled to pause and thoroughly contemplate my next steps before even considering returning home. My name is Jax, and I'm a 42-year-old man who's been happily married to Harper for 15 years. Harper, who is a year my junior, and I are the proud parents of 2 daughters. Andrea, who is 11, and Kimberly, who is 8. Up until an hour ago, our lives were fairly routine, albeit filled with love and joy. However, things have taken a significant turn. Losing my daughters was never part of my desired outcome, but if push came to shove, I believe that in the grand scheme of things, following through with my plan would ultimately serve their best interests. It seemed a cleaner solution to end a marriage plagued by bitterness and distrust and to begin anew. Upon reaching home, I noticed Harper's Lexus already parked in the driveway, an indication that the kids were elsewhere, allowing for an immediate conversation with my spouse. Despite not being an actor, I managed to conceal my genuine emotions, even managing to muster a smile. Harper, fresh from her day as an accountant, was bustling about in the kitchen upon my entry. Our professions as a school principal and accountant respectively afforded us a structured routine, enabling us to equally partake in the familial chores. Today was her turn to prepare our meal, and she offered only a fleeting acknowledgement as I greeted her with a cheek kiss. Observing her, I noted she retained her beauty from our early days, albeit with the natural changes time imposes. After tending to the meal preparations for a spell, she eventually placed our dinner in the oven and faced me, where I was seated at the kitchen table. Her striking green eyes and blonde hair never failed to captivate me. Standing at 6 feet and maintaining a weight of 180 pounds, I've been regarded as quite the looker, a trait that pairs well with Harper's own luminous beauty and appeal. She looked at me with a mix of inquiry and surprise, which I met with a reassuring smile. "Do you prefer something amusing or endearing?" I rose to my feet and wrapped her in an embrace. Gazing down at her, I became aware that my stature and appearance played a significant role in her decision to welcome me into her world. The embrace led to a soft, exploratory kiss that quickly intensified into a passionate French kiss. I stopped for a moment. "My love for you is so intense, it's painful," I expressed. The time for revelation was finally here. I've got fantastic news to share. My affection for my daughters is boundless, yet I've always harbored a desire for a son. "Yes," she replied, her confusion evident. "In the near future, I'm going to be a dad to a boy," I announced. Harper was taken aback. "Excuse me? I'm lost. Are you saying there's a boy? But I'm not expecting." "It's not with you, but in 5 months I should be welcoming a son into the world, God willing," I explained, managing a smile despite the tension. The powerful slap erased the smile from my face, an anticipated yet painful experience. "But honey, I love you. It was just an accident. It was just sex," I tried to explain to her, but my words fell on deaf ears. In the hours that followed, Harper went through a whirlwind of feelings, starting with the shock of betrayal and escalating to fury and indignation. The children were immediately directed to their room, leaving Harper to express her anger and frustration freely. I quickly packed my bags and exited the home, knowing I wouldn't be coming back. A week later, divorce documents were delivered to me. Adultery was cited as the cause for the divorce, a matter taken very seriously in our jurisdiction. My time with our daughters was restricted to a mere handful of hours each week. Calls from Harper were frequent. She needed to express her anguish. The pain she felt was immense. Each time she asked, "Why did you do this to me?" "To us." I found myself without answers. My pleas to move past this and start anew were met with nothing but fury and outright rejection. I was a scoundrel, and she was determined to make me pay dearly. After 4 months, our day in court arrived. My attorney contested her request for a disproportionate split of our assets and her custody terms for our children. The judge seemed curious about the underlying reasons and inquired if I contested the accusation of being unfaithful. My admission of infidelity, backed by evidence, didn't catch my lawyer off guard, but it certainly surprised both my wife's attorney and the judge. Are you aware, sir, that the plaintiff hasn't provided any proof of your infidelity, and that if I consider this proof in the divorce proceedings, it will influence my ruling? The equal division of assets you're seeking would then be out of the question, the judge clarified. May I come, Your Honor? Inquired my attorney. The pair of legal representatives made their way towards the bench. The counsel for Harper seemed quite content with how things were unfolding. Yet I noticed his grin become rigid as my attorney handed over to the judge the medical DNA proof of Harper's prolonged unfaithfulness. It was evident the judge was deeply upset by this. Eventually, he dismissed both attorneys from his presence. While I was aware of the unfolding scenario, Harper appeared utterly bewildered. Her attorney leaned in to murmur something to her. Suddenly, her complexion lost all color, resembling someone who had just seen a ghost. She then cast a look of sheer disbelief my way. The judge expressed surprise, stating, "This development is quite unforeseen, and I'm truly disturbed by the sense that this courtroom has been misled and exploited. Yet, I recognize that divorce cases often serve as a means for one spouse to seek vengeance against the other." The judge then directed their gaze towards me. "You engaged in a risky act of lying under oath, and had it not been for your later admission, the consequences could have been severe. Would you care to elaborate?" "Your Honor, upon discovering through DNA tests that both children I believed were mine shared the same father, who was not me, it became clear my wife had been unfaithful throughout our marriage. My actions were driven by a desire for her to experience the same hurt and betrayal her actions inflicted upon me," I explained. "She now understands the emotional turmoil I've endured these past few months. I've repeatedly attempted to have her accept my confession, to no avail. Unlike her continuous deceit over 12 years, I chose honesty. My love for our children is unwavering, and I extended an olive branch to her, willing to forgive and move past her infidelity for our family's sake. She had numerous opportunities within 4 months to rectify our situation and salvage our marriage, yet she chose not to. The division of assets was equally divided, and the court decreed joint custody of our 2 children. Several months down the line, upon discovering the identity of the biological father, I emerged victorious in a legal battle against Harper's employer. This resulted in a judgment in my favor, granting me in excess of $200,000 for back child support and additional costs, after DNA evidence confirmed his paternity. Following the statements from several of Harper's coworkers and supervisors who were aware of her prolonged relationship with her superior, my attorney pursued a significantly higher compensation from their firm. The settlement was eventually concluded at approximately $450,000 for me, after deducting legal costs. I want to emphasize that I hold deep affection for these 2 girls and desire for them to remain in my life moving forward.